Questions, anybody? Before I start, got 2 minutes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Here we are, last day. Let me start by asking, how was the test, or the 2 tests? Should have been okay. There shouldn't be. I took all the painful questions out, actually. So just, I wanted you to have a sense of false confidence. So this should feel good, because later on, if you continue to decide to study with me, I'm going to give you very painful exams, like the ones that really hurt your head, because I know exactly how to inflict pain upon you through my questions, and I use those kinds of questions later on. Right now, I just want you to feel good about yourself and feel like everything's going to be okay. And later on, I'll make you feel like nothing's going to be okay, and then break you down and build you back up again, inshallah. But that's just my methodology in teaching. What I'd like to do is first open up the floor to anybody who has any particular questions about the test, anything that they thought was particularly confusing, or they didn't understand the answer, why it was wrong, because you guys have the answer key already. So I'll take any requests for any review from any question on the ISM exam, the first exam first, just so everybody's looking at the same thing. So even, Alina, you can let me know if there's any requests from online also, inshallah. But anybody here? Anybody have any questions about the exam? Or you're clear about everything? Or confused about everything? You're good? Everybody's okay? Those of you who did, how many people did the exam? Okay, that's why you're not confused, because you didn't do the exam, so there's nothing to be confused about. Excellent. I'll just go over it really quickly then, from the beginning to the end. And if you do get a question, just stop me. If something comes to mind that's not clear, stop me. You have a question. Yeah, you can turn the mic on so everybody can hear also.
I put this down like this, and this is wrong.
Musliman. Okay, let me show you on the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. So the question you had was, how do I write, this is Muslimun. What's the nasab version, everybody? Why is the screen not, they're not seeing the screen? Oh, it's not plugged in. Oh yeah, that's usually a reason. Okay. You guys see it yet? Okay. It's Muslimun. What's the nasab version? So a student wrote the answer as Musliman. Okay, now this sounds right, but it's written incorrectly. That's not how you write it. Whenever they see the unsound, they'll add an alif to that. Okay, that's a standard of the Arabic language. They don't do that with Muslimin. Okay, They don't do that with that. And then if you say muslimu, muslima, and muslimi, they didn't do it there either. So they only do it with an. Okay? Now, there are some exceptions to that. Like, for example, if I say rahmatan, you write rahmatan like that. You don't add an alif to that. Okay? But if I say abadan, then I have to write an alif. So it's just a round ta, doesn't take an alif. Okay? Everything else takes an alif. Okay? Any other questions? Let me close this. Any other questions? Okay. Every ism has 4 properties: status, number, gender, type. Oh, come on, that's too easy. The default state of an ism is light, and there are 4 reasons it could be heavy. Fix it. The default state of an ism is heavy. There are 4 reasons to be. I'm interested. What are those 4 reasons? Mudaf is light. That's 1. Partly flexibles, non-Arab names, places. That's 2. Partly flexibles. When you call someone, I'm absolutely sure that absolutely none of you will get this one. There's no way any single one of you will get this one, the last one. Huh? Absolute negation, yeah. When you say absolutely no, like la ilaha illallah, etc., etc. Okay? All right. Arab names are partly, non-Arab names are partly flexible. It's true. Human broken plurals must be treated as singular and feminine. Falsely true? Truly false? It is false. It is false. What's the true version of this? Human broken plurals can be treated as singular feminine, and they can also be treated what they actually are. Right? You can use she and you can use they. Good. Non-human broken plurals are treated as singular and feminine. That is true. Qawmun is treated as plural masculine because it is an ism jam'. Yeah, ism jam here means ism jam'. Ism jam' means a collective noun. You didn't know that word. That's okay. Now you know. Ism jam', that's correct. Plural and masculine. Yeah. The default gender of an ism is feminine. That is false. That is false. Because the default gender of any ism is masculine. The word qamar, moon, is feminine because the Arab said so. Yes, no, maybe so, I don't know. Why is it masculine? Because the Arab said so. There's no list of words that are masculine because the Arab said so. There's only a list of words that are what? Feminine because the Arab said so. The sun is in them. So you figure, might as well include the rest of the universe. No. No, the sun is feminine, but the moon is masculine. Okay? Yes?
Number 6, common. You said it's masculine? I thought it's
Yeah.
feminine.
Qawm, nas, and qarn are plural because the Arab said so.
Right, but they're feminine, right?
قوم وتكون من بعده قوما صالحين. قوما صالحين. So what happens in the Quran is there are some cases where qawm is treated feminine also, but that's a little more complicated. For now, at your level, assume it to be masculine plural. Yeah, in the notes it should be masculine plural. You had feminine in the notes? For qawm? Okay, so let me just show you something. Since that came up, I'll show you both. Al-qawm al-zalimina. A phrase in the Quran. Are they both proper? Are they both proper? Okay. Is the first one nasab? The second one could be nasab. Ina could be nasab or jar, so it could be nasab. The first one is masculine, according to the theory I just presented you. Is the second one masculine? Yeah, Ina is from the masculine chart, right? So we've got nasab, nasab, plural, plural, masculine, masculine, proper, proper. What are we looking at? This is a mawsuf sifa, okay? Or like in the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, after you throw him in the well, after that you will become a good people. قَوْمًا صَالِحِينَ. Notice also common, common, plural, plural, etc., etc. Yeah? However, watch this. Past tense. Huwa nasara, huma nasara, hum nasaru, hiya. What is kadhabat? Who lied? Who denied? Let's use easy translation. Who denied? She denied. She denied. When you hear a she, should you look for an outside doer? Yeah, so what happens in the Quran is kadhabat qablahum. This is qabl means before. Qabl is one of the words that are mudaf. 99% of the time I call them special mudafs in your list. Qabla is a mudaf, hum is the mudaf. What does qablahum mean? Before them. What status is qabla? Rafa, qabla, qabla, nasb. If it was qabli, it would be jar. If it was qablu, it would be, okay, so qabla is nasb. And hum is what status? Some people are saying Rafa, it's breaking my heart. Attached pronouns can only be nasb or jar. And if they're attached to a mudaf, they're jar. Hum is jar. She lied before them. She lied or she denied before them. Now watch this. What is the relationship between qawm and Lut? قوم is bata kaf lam waw min fi qawm hatta ila. Qawm is a mudaf. Light no alif lam. Lutin is jar. So that's mudaf mudaf ilayh. What does qawm Lut mean? Okay, go back to kadhabat. When you see a she, should you look for an outside doer? Is qawm is outside doer? This does happen in the Quran. Generally, the word qawm is masculine. But can it be considered feminine also? Yes. It's kind of like a human, they almost treat it like a human broken plural, even though it's not a plural. It's not a broken plural at all. It's a nation. It's not nations. It's a nation. So that does happen. It's a little bit tricky. But at the base level, I wanted to not give you the whole truth, be selective with the truth, and just tell you it's plural and masculine. So if you wrote plural and masculine, you're right. If you wrote feminine, you're right. However, if you're going to say plural masculine, you'll be right. Or if you say singular feminine. You can't say plural and feminine. The two answers would be either plural masculine or singular feminine. You can't have it mixed between those two. The word qamar, okay, there are 8 reasons for an ism to be proper. There are, oh yeah? You remind me of a story from my college days in 1826. There was a guy, I used to be for a little bit of time I spent in Queens College, between Baruch College and Queens College. And in Queens College, we had some guys in my college days, they loved debating the philosophy club. Like the Muslim guys, they would go to the philosophy club and debate the existence of God with the atheists, right? And they just believed that every Muslim should know how to debate with atheists, and every Muslim should be able to prove that God exists. And then there was this one guy who just came from, I believe he was from a village in Pakistan, somewhere in Sindh. He still had that hat that has the mirrors on it. You've seen those kufis with the mirrors? He used to wear that to college. He was a really sweet guy. And he's just sitting there in the MSA room, the Muslim students, he's just making a salah. Some of those debate guys walk into the masjid. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. Are you new? Yeah, alhamdulillah, first semester for me. I was like, brother, come sit. What do you, sit what? What? Well, we're going to discuss the proofs for the existence of God, the existence of Allah. You go, huh? Allah is there. Allah is there. That was answer. Allah is there. And these guys are like, oh yeah? Can you prove it? Can you prove? They said to him, can you prove it? He goes, huh? You prove it. So the reason I remember that is when I said there are 7 reasons for Islam to be proper. Now I say to you, as he once said, you prove it. So, what are the 7 reasons? Pronouns. That's 2. Proper names. Pointers. That's 4. Ism mawsul, alladhi, alladhina, and cousins. Calling names. Stupid. Proper. Not calling names. The one being called. Not calling names. And the last one. The mudaf is proper only if the mudaf ilayh is proper. Okay, that's 7. You proved it. Yathrib is proper because it's light. No, Yathrib is proper because it's a name, it's a proper name. Write the 4 properties as per its grammatical treatment. Ooh, that's a fun one. That's a lot of work. I'm not doing it. You have an answer key. Questions on this one? Any questions on this one? Number 3, okay. Al-anharu, rivers, let's go through that. Notice that it gives you the meaning. So, what do you learn from the meaning? Is this word singular, pair, or plural? It's plural. The moment you hear plural from semester 1, which plural? Remember? Plural is not enough. We have to say which plural. Now, if this is a plural in Arabic that ends with una or ina, that would be a masculine plural. If it ended with atun or atin, that would be a feminine plural. If it was qawm, nas, and qarn, it would be a plural because the Arabs said so. Then we got 2 left, a human broken plural or a non-human broken plural, which you cannot figure out on your own unless somebody hands you the meaning. You can't guess them. You can't divine the meanings yourself. So I said rivers here, so is this human or non-human? This is non-human depending on your religious tradition, but for us it's non-human. For some people, rivers are alive and they're people and they talk to them and all kinds of stuff. Whatever works their flow, I don't know. Okay, so al-anhar, broken plural, non-human. Now we can figure out its 4 properties now that we know that. What's the status of it? It's rafa'. What's the number and gender? Together, number and gender. Singular and feminine, good. Grammatically, singular and feminine, even though dictionary-wise, plural, right? So the contradiction between grammar and dictionary. Okay, common or proper. Why? Hal. Good job. Can we do number 4 as well? We can. Would you like fries with that? Okay, Mariam. Status. Good job. Nasab or jar. Why? Non-Arab name. Non-Arab name. Non-Arab names can be nasab or jar and a. Remember, rafa is nasab is a, jar is also a. Good job. Okay, so that's nasab or jar. What about the number? Gender? Type? Good job. Easy. Any others? Okay, number 6. Status. Rafa' or nasab or because hada is what? I know it's a pointer, but what is it in terms of status? What is that called? It's the same as all 3 status. You guys are answering this way. I look at a set of stairs and I say to someone, what is that? And you say, there are a number of steps that you can take, one on top of the other, to reach from one floor to... You could just say it's stairs. When I'm saying, what is this? You're like, it's the same as rafa', same as nasab. What is it called? Non-flexible. Non-flexible. That's what this is called. Okay? So, hada is non-flexible, rafa' or nasab or jar. Number. Hada. Singular. Masculine. If this was feminine, what would it be? هذه. Common or proper? Why? Why is it proper? There's no al on it. It's not somebody's name. All pointers are proper. It's one of the 7. Anything else? 7 to 10? Is that what you just said? Fine. كلمتان. What do you see? Jar. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Rafa. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Nasab or jar. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-ali. You're making me do so much dhikr right now. You're increasing me in iman. Actually, you're increasing me in sabr. You know, at my graduation ceremony for dream students, I used to say, I don't know if I increased you in knowledge, but you definitely increased me in sabr. Murafa, nasib, nasib or jar. It's like a stock market right now. It's ani, which is a combination, and the combination is 2 rafa, which means you know that it's rafa and you know the number is 2. And the ta tells you that it's feminine, like muslimatani, and there's no al in the beginning, which tells you it's common. Okay, sama'un, status, I don't need, okay, please don't break my heart. Sama'un, rafa. Masculine or feminine? Why? Because the Arab said so. Sama'un, singular, pair or plural? Singular. Common or proper? Common. Al-ardi. Al-ardi. Jar, good. Singular, very good. Feminine, why? Because the Arab said so. Proper because? Al-mu'minuna. Rafa, plural, masculine. I'm going to say it fast. Rafa, plural, masculine. Where did I get all 3 answers from? Una told me Rafa. Una told me plural. Una also told me masculine. The only thing left now is it common or proper? Why? Good, because of al. Write the Muslim chart. I don't want to know what you did. I don't want to know. Yeah, but you should say it to me before you ask your question. Muslimun, Musliman, Muslimin, Muslimani, Muslimaini, Muslimaini, Muslimuna, Muslimina, Muslimina, Muslimatun, Muslimatan, Muslimatin, Muslimatani, Muslimataini, Muslimataini, Muslimatun, Muslimatin, Muslimatin. Let's go quickly over what the point of all of that is. Muslimun is 1 rafa, Musliman is 1 nasab, Muslimin is 1 jar. Muslimani, Muslimaini, Muslimaini. 2 rafa, 2 nasab, 2 jar. Muslimuna, Muslimina, Muslimina. Plural rafa, plural nasab, plural jar for humans. Muslimatun, Muslimatan, Muslimatin. 1 rafa, nasab, jar, feminine. Muslimatani, Muslimataini, Muslimataini. 2 rafa, nasab, jar, pair. Muslimatun, Muslimatin, Muslimatin. Plural rafa, nasab, jar, but what? Feminine. Feminine. Is that clear to everybody? Yes. Question?
8 and 9.
8 and 9, yeah.
Could you just explain, sorry, why the Arab said so? Like, where did we...
There was a barbecue. Why did the Arabs say so? Did we have it in our notes? Yes. The Arabs said so on page 13. In your notes, it's on page 13. Okay? Okay. Ijlal?
Yes. So I've learned this from before start, but like, is there any value in learning of ism shamsiya and ism kamriya?
Yeah, it has value, not grammatical, but
not
Phonetic
grammatical.
value, yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. You're going to tell me if it's common or proper. Al-mulk. Why? Good. Huwa. Why? Qadir. Promen. Why? No al. Alladhi. Why? Ism mawsul. Ahsanu. Common. Why? Some guy named Ahsan's like, proper, it's my name. I'm pretty sure you're not in the Quran, my friend. That's not you. Just like Bushra in Quran is not talking about your cousin Bushra. Bushra in the Quran means good news. Your cousin may not be. Okay. So, Ahsanu is common. Okay. Let's see. Samawatin. Common? Somebody said proper. Defend your position. Prove it. Like you prove it. I used to have the best experiences in college. Like these were the gold. I don't know. You don't have those kinds of experiences anymore. I don't know. It's not as fun anymore. There's this one guy. He had just come from Bangladesh. He's one of my best friends, and he did not speak a lot of English at all. So he and I used to speak in Urdu. And he got in, I don't know what happened. We used to play ping pong in the student union, you know? So he was playing ping pong one day, and he got into a fight with a really big guy. Like he just got into some kind of argument. So I walk into the room, and he was tiny, and the guy was huge. He was like 2.5 times his size. Like, you know, like Jalut, right? And the big guy is yelling, and he's using foul language, and he's using the worst word, beep, 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 you beep, beep. And he's just going off on him. And he's just standing there staring at him. And then he says, I have no vocabulary. That was the best response I've ever heard. Futur. Common. Common. Karrataini. Common. Why? No sign of feminine. No sign of proper. No al. Al-basar. Why? Huwa. Good. Okay, you figured that out. Oh, that's all there was. Look at that. So easy. I did make it nice and easy. Okay, quickly. Fi'il quiz. The fi'il kharaja is an example of a tense. Huwa kharaja, huma kharaja, right? Where the inside pronoun is huwa or he. Huwa. What? You didn't get this? Sounds like a you problem. It came today. You don't check your email every day, like every other second. You're not that kind of person. You're normal. 3:40 was 4 hours ago. We should have come to you sooner. Yeah. So I shouldn't do this right now. You're gonna hurt your feelings. No, you do it. You could do it on the go. The fi'il yujahiduna is an example of a tense, present tense, where the inside pronoun is hum, they. Good. Ya beginning, una ending. An outside fi'il, sorry, this is typo. An outside fa'il, an outside doer, you can cross the word fi'il out and say doer. An outside doer can only come if the fi'il is in the he or she version, huwa or hiya version, that's fine. Either one is fine. And it must be before or after? After. And it must be in what status? Rafa status. Identify the huruf correctly. For harf nasb, okay, so these terms are new for you, so I don't know why they're here, but this shouldn't be harf nasb. This should say light harf. This is called This is the Arabic term for it. They call it harf nasb. The reason I didn't use it is you already used the word nasb in ism world, right? So you would confuse this nasb with that nasb. So I just use light and lightest. But the fi'l have their own kind of nasb, and the ism has its own kind of nasb. And then the lightest is called jazm. The lightest is called jazm. Okay, that's the lightest version. Okay, so we're just going to use light and lightest because we're used to that, okay? So wal, is that L or L plus? Wal, L plus. What does it mean? Should. Should with the word and dot 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 should. Okay? In. L or L plus? L plus. What does it mean? If. Lam. L or L plus? L plus. What does it mean? Did not. Good. Hatta. L. L. Until. Fal. L plus. What does it mean? So with the word should. So should. Lan. L. What does it mean? Lan. Will not. Will not. Li. I like it. It could be L, and it could be L plus. How could it be L? Because likay, you can also say in three ways, right? What are the three ways of saying likay? You could say likay or li or, and if it's from likay, then it's the L. And if it's in lam lamma li, then it's L plus. So it's actually a member of both. Yes. No, lan is not lightest. Yeah, L, yeah. Is light. Lan is light. And you're saying I didn't say that? I did say that? No, don't. It's sukoon doesn't matter. It's the word after that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Lamma. L plus. What does it mean? Yet not. Not yet. Good. Not yet. An. L or L plus? Huh? Huh? An is light or lightest? Light. What does it mean? That or two. Likay. Light. What does it mean? So that. Yeah. They're L plus. They cannot be L, no. Because if they were L, they would be wali or fali. So that gives away that they're L plus. Okay? Good question. Underline the fi'l and write whether it is past, present. Okay, what did you guys think in the first case? What was the fi'l? Anzala. And what did you think it was? Past tense, present tense, future tense? It was past tense. A sound at the end, kind of a giveaway. Huwa anzala, huma anzala, hum anzalu. Some of you may have thought it was maybe present tense and it begins with alif, means I. That may be possible. That confusion will remain for maybe another couple of weeks and then I'll get rid of it for you. How will you know? Because sometimes there's overlap, right? You can have a past tense that begins with ta. That can happen. You can have a past tense that begins with alif. That can happen. But how will we know? We'll learn soon enough. Anyway, so anzala is in fact past tense and it means huwa. Huwa anzala, he sent down the book. Idhhab. Well, it doesn't match anything in the past tense. Because in the past tense, either you have an a, like nasara, or nasara, or nasaru. You have all those, right? But you don't have any of those endings in idhhab. So it can't be a past tense. It can't be a present tense because the present tense either begins with hamza, a or u, which this doesn't begin with, or it begins with na or nu, or ya or you, or ta or tu. So it's not a present tense. And what could be a reason to start a word with e and end with sukoon? Commands. Commands do that, don't they? So you, by elimination, and this is where I'm going to teach you your new skill today. It's not a full-on lesson, but learning the process of elimination. Okay? This is not in your notes, so you should write this down. Okay? Learning the process of elimination. What does that mean? You don't know vocabulary. You don't have enough vocabulary. You're reading the Quran, the vast majority of words, you don't know what you're dealing with, right? But in this class, you've learned there are 3 kinds of words. What are the 3 kinds of words? Ism, fi'il, and harf. The harf are the easiest. Most of them you've already heard now. Either they're the harf of jar, or they're the harf of nasb, or they're the light harf, or the lightest harf. There are more harf, but they're easy. They're not hard. So harf isn't really a contender when you're trying to figure out what a word is. The 2 main contenders are, it could be an ism and it could be a fi'il. Now, if it could be an ism, then you took 2 semesters of ism. You learned 4 properties of the ism, and you learned 5 fragments of the ism, and you tried to find the invisible is. All that stuff will become alive if the word you're dealing with is an ism. But none of that will be relevant if the word you're dealing with is a what? Is a fi'il. Like all that stuff you learned is not applicable. You know how in a form you have to fill out NA, it just doesn't apply, right? If you're looking at a fi'il, then the stuff you learned about a fi'il applies. If you're looking at an ism, the stuff you learned about an ism applies. So the real challenge is it ism or what? No, fi'il is not enough. Here's what it's going to be. Is it ism or past or present or command? Because the forbidding is easy. You can spot it easily. So the 3 main contenders, like when you're looking at a big word in Arabic, any big word in Arabic, the 4 possibilities is either this is an ism, or this is a past tense, or this is a present tense, or this is a command. Okay, this is what I'm trying to teach you is process of elimination. Because as you've learned all this stuff, you're like, how do I even know what I'm looking at? How do I even know? So I'm going to show you some things that are really, really cool. Look at this example. I don't know what this is. Let's just say anzala. I don't know what this is. And I don't know what al-kitab is. So let's start with al-kitab, because it looks a little more familiar. What is on al-kitab that is giving away that it might be an ism? Al. So that's an ism. That was a good giveaway, right? So, okay, fine. Al-kitab, ism, that's why it's nasb status, fine. Let's go back towards anzala. I was going to say maybe anzala is also an ism. Let's just say, play devil's advocate. Anzala, in my mind, is also an ism. The problem with that is an ism, when it's next to another ism, when 2 isms are together, either they are mawsuf sifa, or they are mudaf ilayh. Something is happening. Looks like anzala is light, no alif lam, so maybe it's a mudaf. And if I can show that the next word is jar, then you know what? I'll have way more confidence that both anzala and al-kitab are both isms because the mudaf is an ism and the mudaf ilayh is an ism. But when I look at anzala and I start to think it might be a mudaf, that theory collapses. Why does it collapse? Because al-kitab does not act like a jar. Now let me show you something else. You learned 3 kinds of status. What were they? Rafa', nasb, and? Okay. What do you know about nasb? You know that it does 2 jobs. I'm using everything you've learned, nothing new. Just what you've learned. Nasb does 2 jobs. Does anyone remember what those 2 jobs are? Yeah. It's a detail or after it's a harf of nasb. Okay. After a harf. So inna, anna, ka'anna, bi'anna, layta, lakinna, la'alla are the harf of. Now you'll see why it's important to memorize that stuff. I look at this al-kitab and I say, listen, book, you are nasb. And I know 2 reasons you could be nasb, 2 main reasons. One of them is harf of nasb. Is that here? The other reason is you must be a detail. But detail of what? A fi'il. So now I go backwards and I have a really good educated guess that anzala is probably a fi'il. Just using what I know, I start using this investigative process and start figuring out what's going on. And doing this kind of investigation is really helpful for your grammar. It's really helpful because you start thinking, grammatically all the time, trying to solve the problem. Okay, now let's look at anzala. At least we came to the conclusion that it's a fi'l. Yes? It's a fi'l. But there are 3 fi'ls to contend with. It could be a past tense, it could be a present tense, and it could be a command. Past, present, those are my 3 main contenders. So now okay, fine, it's not an ism, but it's one of the 3 fi'ls. So how do I figure this out? Okay, well, let's go with the easiest. Commands end in the lightest form. Right? Commands end in the lightest form. Is this in the lightest ending? No. So it's not command. How many options left? Yes.
Starts with an a.
You could also eliminate it because it starts with an a, and I'll give you even better. You see this alif has a hamza on top? Commands don't get that. Commands just get a floating hamza without the floating alif without the hamza on top or bottom. So you don't write it like this. Like the first command in the Quran, by the way, might as well show you that. I'm looking at a PDF. Taqra'u. Let me make that bigger. Okay. Taqra'u. You read. Taqra'u means you read. How do I make this the lightest version? What's the lightest version of taqra'u? Taqra'. Taqra'. Like that. Step 2 to make it a command. Remove the ta. Qra'. Does it need help? Yes. How do I determine what sound this will get? So which letter am I looking at here? If ra was u, it would have been u. If it's not u, it's going to be, and what do we read? Iqra' bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Iqra', right? Like that. Notice I write iqra' like this. I don't write it like this. I don't write it like this. That's wrong. There's no hamza on the bottom. It's just iqra' like that. Okay? Now, coming back to anzala. I eliminated that it's not a command. What's left? It's not an ism and it's not a command. What possibilities are left? Past tense or? Okay, the present tense, what's the first present tense you know? Yansuru. That's normal, isn't it? Yansuru. The closest thing to this would be ansuru. If it's a present tense, it would be ansuru because it begins with alif. But this doesn't look normal. Because the present tense could be normal or light or lightest. This doesn't look normal. Why not? If it was normal and it was a present tense, what would it be? Anzalu. It would have been normal. So you have to have a reason to make it what? Light. Do you see a reason in the text? No. I don't think it's a present tense for no reason. Every normal present tense ends with dhamma. And if it's light, you better find a reason. And if it's lightest, you better find a reason. But anzala, sounds like a pretty convenient match for what word you memorized. Nasara. Nasara. This was a long thought process, but what am I trying to tell you? What you know. I said something way earlier in the course. I don't know what this is. You remember what I said? I don't know what this is, but I know what it's not. That thought process will make you an Arabic gangster. That thought process. You know why I'm telling you this? Because I figured out so much Arabic without going to a teacher because I kept telling myself, I don't know what this is, but I know what it's not. I don't know what this is, and I know what it's not. And 90% of a problem would get solved, and then I would go for the last 10% to somebody and they help me. I didn't say, teach me Arabic. No, I said, whatever little I know, I'm going to put it to work. I'm going to exhaust what I know. And then when I can't do any more myself, then I'm going to go, hey, I don't get this word. I don't get this one thing. Help me here, right? And that's true learning is that when you do most of the lifting yourself. Most of the work is yourself and you absolutely get stuck and then you go to your teacher, okay? Anyway, in the beginning, the teacher has to handhold you through the fundamentals. But then on, you've got to pick up your weight. Look at idhab. It's a big word. There are, yeah, question?
Yeah, what's the difference between anzala and nazala?
Not yet. Briefly, nazala means to come down. So if I came down those steps, that would be nazaltu. But if I push this down the stairs, it would be anzaltuhu. I sent it down. So coming down myself and sending something else down. Okay? Anyway, idhab, 4 words. It could be an ism. It could be an ism. It could be a past tense. It could be a present tense. And it could be a command. Those are my 4 big words in Arabic. Ism, past tense, present tense, command. Let's go through it. Could it be an ism? Isms have ending sounds or ending combinations. Does this have an ending sound here? Ism is out. Easy elimination. Ism is out. Everybody see that? Because you can't see rafa, nasab, or jar. It's gone. What 3 things are left? Past, present, and? Okay, past tense is gone. Can you tell me why past tense is gone? I want to hear from you. In a past tense, you match what? What do you use the answer key? Huwa nasarahuma nasarahum nasaru. What do you use it for? To match what? How the word ends. Does anything in the past tense end like idhab? Nothing. There's no match. If there's no match, it's not a past tense. Past tense is gone. In the present tense, what do I look for first? There's only 4 beginnings. A or u, na or nu, ya or you, ta or tu. Does idhab have any of those 4 beginnings? That's also gone. What's left? I don't know what this is, but I know it's not an ism, I know it's not a past tense, I know it's not a present tense. Now I can make a pretty educated guess that this is a command. You see that? So the knowledge you have is super cool. Now imagine some of you have never met your in-laws, so you don't know who Fir'aun is. I'm kidding. Okay. So you don't know what the word Fir'aun is. Let's just imagine. What is ila? Is ila something you learned? What is ila? A harf of? Does a harf of jar like to beat up on a past tense or a present tense or a command or an ism? So if you see ila, the next word has to be, and once you know it's an ism, 4 properties, whatever you learn, 5 fragments, all that stuff. You see what I'm doing? Let's look at something else. Let's try this one. Ar-Rasul is too easy. Let's just get that out of the way. What kind of word is Ar-Rasul? Ism, past tense, present tense, or command? That's an ism. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Okay. Is amana an ism? I want to know why. I want you to use your elimination process, because that's the skill I want to give you. I am not going to be here when you're reading Quran by yourself. So I want to be able to equip you with the thought process. So what is the thought process here? How do I know amana is not a command or not an ism? Yeah. Okay, ending sounds nasab to me. So that could be nasab, and an ism can be nasab. What can you eliminate it some other way? Can somebody else eliminate it? Yeah, Ali Ahmad, what do you think? It doesn't look like a mudaf and a mudaf ilayh. Why not?
Ar-Rasulu is rafa'.
Ar-Rasulu is rafa'. Now there are 5 fragments. Do you remember the 5 fragments? There was mudaf and mudaf ilayh. There was mawsuf and sifa, harf jar, harf nasab, pointers. 5 ways isms work with each other. This would have been a mudaf ilayh, but it doesn't seem to work. I'm going to say amana is not an ism. I'm going to get rid of that. I'll go to the easiest elimination. I'm going to say amana is not a command. How did I eliminate that? It has to be E. That's gone. Okay. I'm going to say maybe it's a past tense and maybe it's a present. Because the present tense can begin with u or a. So it does begin that way. But a present tense should be normal. And if this was normal, what would it be? Amanu. Amanu. But does it? Does it? It doesn't. But somebody argues, let's play even further. I'll show you even something more. But if it is amana, the past tense, let's just play with that. If it's past tense, does it match with nasara? Nasara, amana. Does the ending match? Okay, what does that ending tell you? Who's the doer? He's the doer. When he's the doer, should you look for an outside doer? Is ar-rasulu after and rafa? This seems to work really well as a past tense. But let's say somebody wants to say, no, Ustad, I'm still confused. U and a could also be a what? A present tense. If it's a present tense, and I agree with you, temporarily, I agree with you. If it's a present tense, who would theoretically be the doer? If it began with alif, who would be the doer in a present tense? I would be the doer. And if I is a doer, should you have an outside doer? The only time you have an outside doer is if it's what? He or she. So ar-rasulu being rafa would stop making any sense. It wouldn't make sense because you can't have a doer when you already have a doer. The only way this makes sense is if amana is the past tense. Am I giving you some new knowledge or teaching you how to exhaust what you already know? Use what you know. These fundamentals are huge. They are like, how am I going to know? You're going to use a little bit of deductive reasoning. And how will you get good at this? You can't get good at this if your fundamentals are not solid. You can't. What I just did here, you can't do that if your 4 properties of the ism and your 5 fragments and your past tense and your present tense and your pronouns and your command and forbidding, those lessons that we did, if those are not solid, you cannot do this. And to become solid at that, you don't need some exhaustive education. You just need to solidify what we did in these 10 days. The hard part's already done. The foundation, the base of the foundation is already laid. The cement is now wet. You just need to solidify it. And that means which days are the most important? I keep saying it. The next 10 days are the most important. They are the most important. I'm going to start you off with this conversation now. Enough review. What next? We have to have short term and then we have to have long term. It was a long time ago. There was a young man in the middle of the day, 12 p.m. He was sitting in a park. There was an old man sitting next to him. He said, young man, why are you sitting here? He said, I don't know, just relaxing. And he said, why are you relaxing? You're a young man. You should do something. And he said, what should I do? He goes, at least go buy some fruit, get a stand and sell it in the park. And he says, then what should I do? He said, well, if you sell enough, you can hire someone who can run one of the stands and you can open up your second banana stand. And he said, then what should I do? Well, if you get a couple of people working for you, you can have banana stands in every park in the city. And he says, then what should I do? He goes, then you should go and travel and buy yourself, you'll have enough money to buy yourself a bunch of banana farms. And you'll be rich. He goes, then what should I do? He goes, then you can relax. He goes, I'm already relaxing. What students come to me, Ustad, I know we did this. What should I do? I say, do this. But then what am I going to do? Okay, then do that. And then, give me the 80-point plan for the next 5 years. Have you ever followed up on any 80-point plan in your life? The vast majority of you, I know the answer, because I know you, because I know myself. The answer is no. So stop pretending that you need the entire roadmap, and until you have that, I don't know what to do. I don't know, it's just because I don't know what I'm going to be doing 3.5 years from now. So clearly I don't have direction. That's why I stopped learning. Okay, so you know what that's called? That's called analysis paralysis. Okay, you analyze, so you plan out so much, and you do what? You do absolutely nothing. Then you feel insanely guilty. Then you buy yourself a dry erase board and make a new plan for the next 10 years. And you take pictures of it. This is the plan. And then you follow through nothing. And then you say, time to make a new plan. This is it. You know? That's not what I want to give you. I'm not giving you a 1-year plan or 2-year plan. I'm first giving you a 10-day plan. Those of you that are watching online, if you're going to watch this a year from now, some of you are watching live, some of you are going to watch a month from now, 5 years from now, I don't care. You have the same plan, 10-day plan. And listen, you guys are sitting in front of me, and somebody's sitting in Indonesia watching this. Some people are sitting in Angola watching this. Some people are sitting in Senegal watching this. Some people are sitting in Australia watching this. To me, all of my students are equal. You're not in some special status because you live in the holy city of Dallas. You're not. You know, I know it's Dallas Munawwara nowadays, but no, you're just students. And your students the same to me everywhere and anywhere. My attitude to you is no different from an attitude I have towards a student that's studying online. And some of you are used to this convenience drug. I really learn better when I'm sitting in person. It's just such a great feeling, and I just do so much better that way. Yeah, it's true for me though. It's really true. If I had that attitude, I would know nothing. I would know nothing. That is a convenience attitude. That is, I must learn on my terms because this is optimal for me. The people before us, a century before us, 50 years before us, not 10 centuries before us, 50 years before us, 30 years before us, how did they learn? How did they learn? I wanted to study when I studied with my teacher for 3 weeks. 3 weeks, that's it. And then he was gone. He went to Pakistan. He's like, now what do? I need to learn in person. I can't. And I couldn't even afford like Arabic books. They were expensive. So I found somebody selling a used copy of the Medina Arabic books outside the Masjid al-Jum'ah. I got a used copy with pencil markings in it all over. I got it for $6. It was great. I went through the book myself in a week. I grinded through it. There was no Google the meaning of this word. There was no arrow tools. There was no, I couldn't afford a dictionary. I couldn't go to the Hansware's dictionary. The PDF files weren't available. Like all this stuff the PDF is so inconvenient. Can't there be an app? I have to keep tapping the right button to go to the next page. It's so inconvenient. You know what I had to do when I didn't know the meaning of a word? And I'm living in Forest Hills, Queens, which is a predominantly Russian Jewish neighborhood where there's nobody to learn Arabic from. If I want to learn Hebrew, I could learn there in Forest Hills at the time, but not Arabic. I'm going to get on a train and I'm going to ride to Brooklyn, or I'm going to go to Steinway Street and wait until Maghrib Salah, till the Arab Imam comes out and say, Ya Imam, Hada. Ma hada. And he'd be like, and he'd tell me, and I'd write it down, and go back, take the train back for 2 words. And what do I hear now? It's just so much better when the room is air-conditioned and the light, the carpeting, the chair bothered me a little bit. It was making squeaky sounds. That's why I didn't learn as well. Honest to God, I can't recommend this. But for yourself, I can't do this to you. You should do this for yourself. By yourself, I've seen this only in cartoons. They have this boxing glove punch thing that you can retract into a spring, and you press a button and it just buy yourself one of those when you develop that attitude. Because you cannot learn that way. That's not a seeker's attitude. You have to have a seeker's attitude. When I studied grammar, just like you're studying now, not much different than you're studying now, did I know enough to just listen to an Arabic lecture? What do you think? No. Did I know enough to understand the entire Quran like this? No, I didn't. Now I had 2 choices. Until there's another class and it comes at my convenient schedule, then I will start learning again. Or I'm desperate enough for this, I'm going to figure this out no matter what. And it's not like nowadays, many of you kids, I appreciate you guys sitting in this class, but you don't appreciate how good you have it, man. In New York, when I was the 90s Islam was very different from today's Islam. Those of you that were around in the 90s in the US, no. 90s Islam was very different. Everybody in the family had a job. Most of the time, 2 jobs. I used to deliver newspapers at 4 a.m. in the morning before I went to high school. And then after school, I used to go work at a shoe store. Like, you do homework in your lunch break. You come home at 11, 11:30, 12 o'clock sometimes beat. You don't have time to be stupid. And then, when my parents left and I was in college by myself, nobody paid my college tuition. I had to pay my college tuition myself. Where am I going to come up with college? I had to work full time. And between paying the rent and paying the college tuition, you know what was left? Enough to have a slice of bread, no butter, no jam, a slice of bread and a glass of water for breakfast, and like a pizza slice for lunch. We're good. I stayed with an auntie who used to make dinner. They're great. Okay, I still go there. When I go to New York, I have dinner with them. But you know what? In the middle of all that, I was like, I gotta study Arabic. So I got a full-time job, I got full-time college, and I want to study Arabic. So what am I doing? I'm taking trains and like in the middle of rush hour, I'm going over to the Masjid and trying to take a class if I can, or study on the train, figuring out notes, underlining words, memorize. I memorized Surah Al-Kahf on the F train in Queens. I didn't go to a Hifdh program. I memorized Surah Al-Isra on the G train, on the 6 train actually, on the 6 train. It wasn't. There's a guy next to me going. Other guy's like, and I'm just reciting, just doing my thing. Was it convenient? No. Was it amazing? Yeah, it was amazing. But you know what I'm telling you this not because I want to show off. I'm telling you this because I need you to detox from the convenience attitude. That is not how you learn. That's just not how you learn. And then after I made a little bit of progress in Arabic, I got thrown into this situation where I was giving khutbahs in New York. So I gave a khutbah and somebody came to me and said, أيها Shaykh, من أين تخرجت? Where did you graduate from, Shaykh? I was 20 years old. I was like, أنا Shaykh al-Kuwinzi. Queens. What Shaykh? I'm so not a Shaykh. The point is, you guys can learn, and the tools you have accessible to you, oh my God. You guys don't even know how good you have it. I don't even have to compare it to ancient times when people have to travel on the desert. Bro, you know how I learned you know how I type in Arabic really fast? Right? It's kind of cool, right? It's so cool. You know how I type like that? You know why I learned that? I listened to an Arabic lecture on cassette tape on my Walkman, and I didn't understand a word the guy was saying. It was Tariq Suwaidan, may Allah protect him. He did a series in Arabic called I'jazul Quran, the miracle of the Quran. I didn't understand a word the man was saying, not a word. I would listen to the tape, pause, type. An 8-hour lecture series took me 2 weeks to type up in its entirety. By the end of it, I was typing like this. And by the end of it, I knew about 20% of what he was saying. Then I listened to it again and again and again and again until I understood 100% of what he was saying. I just kept pushing myself. Did I have a teacher? Did I have to DM somebody on Instagram or TikTok? Can you inspire me? Can you motivate me? Can you please send me some motivational messages so I can pick myself up? What is this nonsense? I don't understand it. I don't sympathize with it. I don't acknowledge it. I don't agree with it. I have no sympathy. I have none at all. No empathy for it. Please inspire me. Do it to yourself. You'll feel inspired. The sinuses will get cleared. That's Indian inspiration. Yes, that's Pakistani Indian inspiration. Anyway, next 10 days, I've assigned my teacher's assistants to be on YouTube Live. They will send you an email, which hours they're going to be on live. You're being sent an answer key for this study packet. Every question. They're going to go over all the exercises that we did on day 1 tomorrow. All the exercises on day 2, on the second day, third day, fourth day. We'll go through the entire study packet, whatever questions you need answered. The support mechanism is there for you to take advantage of. And at the end of that, I want you to take an exam. The purpose of the exam is you have made the most valuable investment in the last 10 days that you could make. And it's not, if you paid a tuition for this, that's not the investment. Way more than the money you spent on a class is the time you spent. This was time taken away from other things. It was time taken away from family, from work, from business, from other things. You invested the most valuable asset in your possession, which is what? Your time. And when you make an investment, anybody who knows business knows, when you make an investment, you should be concerned with the return on the investment. If in your mind this is just an experience, then it's not an investment. Because the experience is about to be over in less than 2 hours. The experience is going to be over. But if this is an investment, then now you have to capitalize on what you just spent. You understand? And these next 10 days, if you don't take advantage of what I'm telling you, you will not have capitalized on this investment. This investment will go to waste. The iron is hot right now. If you come back to this a month from now, you will not be doing well. If you come back this 2 weeks from now, you will not be doing well. If you tell yourself, I need a couple of days to detox from all this Arabic, then you will remain in your detox program. You'll learn whatever, you won't learn Arabic. And then I'll see you a year from now, you're like, hey, mudaf, right? That's all that's going to be left. I don't want you to waste your investment. Next 10 days. And then I'm giving you a test. And the test is going to be online. You'll take it online, you'll get your score online. You'll get that email to you. And after the test, I have a surprise for you. I'm not telling you what it is. What is it? No, I'm not telling you what it is. But it is a surprise. No, it's not a Snickers. But the surprise has to do with you making sure you make progress from there. Now that your investment is secure, now time to build your wealth of Arabic knowledge. Time to build that. Right? Because the whole point of this course is build a foundation, but a foundation isn't that nice unless you build something on it, isn't it? So now we got to secure this foundation. That's the next 10 days. Then we got to start building on it. Okay? And I want to help you step by step. I wish I had a teacher that could say, follow this step, then follow this step, then follow this step, then follow this step, and I had that path. I had to go run into a dead-end street, come back 5 miles, go run this way, come back that way, go that way, come back that way. I had to go all through all these different loopholes and then figure out what pathway to take. I'm helping you avoid all of the dead ends I ran into. I'm not giving you this curriculum and this pathway as a teacher. I'm giving it to you as a former student. Like I see things from the perspective of a student, not from the perspective of a teacher. Right? So if you trust me with this, allow me to build your pathway. So let's talk about the goal. Because before we go on a journey, we should be clear about the goal. The goal is not Arabic. The goal is Quran. The goal of this curriculum is not Arabic. I'm not teaching you Arabic, to speak Arabic, to read literature. That's a later goal. Then the goal will change to Arabic. Right now, my goal for you is not Arabic. My only goal for you, and the only goal you should have for yourself is what? Is the Quran. That's it. That's the only goal. Which means, and I want you to remember this visual, you built your foundation. Now you need to study a little bit of Quran, just a little bit. But now you need to build your foundation in Quran study. Then you're going to build a little more Arabic. Not too much more, a little bit more. 5% more. Then what are you going to do next? Go back and do some more Quran study. Then a little bit more Arabic. Then a little bit more Quran study. And the more your Arabic is building, the more advanced your Quran study is becoming, because you can handle a heavier load in your Quran study. And you keep going like this, and like this, and like this, and like this. Now, if you keep building your Arabic, and your Quran stays here, you will lose all your motivation, you will lose all your curiosity, and you will lose the whole purpose for which you were doing this, which was what? So just like we have an Arabic program, we've also got to have a systematic what? Quran program, and they need to go hand in hand with each other. So, I'm not interested in teaching you Quran the way that an Arabic teacher teaches the Quran. An Arabic teacher says, here's the surah, here's all the vocabulary from the surah, memorize this vocabulary, and now you can read the surah without a translation. Meaning, give me a vocabulary list. A vocabulary list looks like a table, doesn't it? Right? The thing with tables and memorizing tables is what happens with them? You forget them. You only remember them for the purpose of a quiz or a test. You do not retain that knowledge. You can't. Do you know how much I memorized the vocabulary of the Quran? You know how much I memorized you know how much time I spent memorizing vocabulary of the Quran? 0. I have never spent time memorizing the vocabulary of the Quran, not my entire life. You want the secret? Want the secret? Good. Because I need you to trust me. I want you to be better at studying the Quran than I am. I'm not interested in impressing you with what I know. I'm interested in empowering you to surpass what I know, to give you the tools to surpass me. Because we're interested in furthering an understanding of the Quran. That's what we're trying to do. And you can do it. How do you do it? Well, I was a huge fan of Dr. Israr Ahmed rahimahullah in Urdu. And I used to listen to his dawrah of the Quran. He had 108 hours. It was 108 hours of audio where he went through the entire Quran in Urdu ayah by ayah. It was 108 hours. But I said, this is too much information. So I said, Surah Al-Baqarah, 25 hours or something. I listened to it 12 times. While I was studying what? Arabic. And you know what happened? I didn't just now know those ayat. I knew the lessons from those ayat as taught by him. I also started connecting the Arabic I was learning in this class with the Quran I was studying with him. They started becoming one thing. You would think these are two things, but as you progress, they started becoming one thing. And then as he was explaining, sometimes he would translate something, and I would look at that ayah and I say, but that's not what I think about it at all. Why did he translate this way? And I would mark those places in yellow and say, this is a problem I need to solve. This is a challenging portion, right? So what I've done on Bayina TV is I've done a 20-minute at a time commentary on the entire Quran, on the whole thing. And you're not gonna do this now. You have a clear goal for 10 days. I've given you what you need to do for 10 days. Forget about everything else. After these 10 days are done, I'm going to assign you a surah. My lecture's on that surah. I want you to listen to that lecture for a whole month, over and over again. Social media, YouTube, podcasts, all that stuff. You listen to one thing, you listen to something new, then you listen to something new, you listen to something new. You retain what? Nothing. But if you're listening to me talk about one surah over and over and over and over again, and it's not going to be Al-Baqarah, it's not going to be huge like that. It's going to be something smaller like Surah Al-Dhariyat or Surah Al-Jumu'ah or Surah Al-Naba. Or even I think we're going to start from the last 10 surahs because you know them by heart already. Let's start with familiar territory, right? Let's feel a command over that material first. So let's say we start with Surah Al-Ma'un. You're going to listen to my lecture on Surah Al-Ma'un not once. You're going to listen to it what? 12 times, 13 times. And you know what? You're not gonna write any notes down. Don't write a single piece. Just listen. Just listen. Listen in the car. Listen while you're cooking. Listen, 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 listen. Over and over again. And you know what's gonna start happening? If I stopped you at any point in Surah Al-Ma'un and I said, what is Ra'ayta? What is What is Yukadhibu? What is Alladhi? What is Yadu'u? What is Yatim? What is Yahuddu? What is Al-Musallin? You will know it immediately. Immediately. Not only will you have learned Arabic, you will actually have made progress in deepening your relationship with a surah. And now when you recite that surah, you know it so well that you're just sitting there at an Eid party and somebody says, hey, could you pass me the salt? And they say, no, this is my salt, this is not your salt. And you say, yeah, وَيَمْنَعُونَ الْمَاعُونَ. They stop people from even giving small favors. The ayah, you will not be like, let me prepare for this halaqah, hold on, it's somewhere in my notes, Where is it, I heard. the ayah will just be in your head. The lesson will become living. And it will just roll off your tongue. The situation will remind you of the what? Of the ayah. Immediately, the ayah will come in your. That is the most beautiful thing that can happen to you, is it not? You're living life and the word of Allah comes in your head. You're having a conversation and ayah comes in your head. Now that's one surah. Now imagine another month, another surah. Another month, another surah. Another month, another surah. And Arabic, all at the same time, what's happening with the Arabic? It's building. And you know what? The more you build the Arabic alongside the Quran, your motivation to study more Arabic will become stronger. But if you leave Quran behind and keep focusing on Arabic, your motivation to study will drop and you will become hopeless in your study of Quran too. I've got to show you how to build this step by step together. And over the next year or so, inshallah, a couple of juz of the Quran. Don't worry about I've gone through the entire Quran. Quality over what? Man, I'm telling you, if you knew 2 juz of the Quran well, 2 juz, okay? 2 out of 30, what percent is that? What percent is that? 6%? 7% maybe? That percentage, you know what you've already covered? Over 90% of the vocabulary. You know that? A couple of juz, if you do it well. Then you go somewhere, you know what's going to happen? You're going to read a whole 2 pages and it'll be 3 words that are difficult. You're going to read another couple of pages, it's 1 word that was difficult. You don't have to get intimidated by I have to go through the entire Quran. You just got to go step by step and you got to trust me. I've written it, the textbook is already there and the video lessons are already there for your future studies. None of that is relevant now and I'm going to walk you through all of it after you take your foundational exam, which is in 10 days. So just follow a path. Follow a path. You know, many of you are watching this on YouTube, you're watching online. I just want you guys, everybody to know this. You can search my name on YouTube and find thousands of videos. I talk a lot. Okay? Use thousands and thousands, cartoons, animations, shorts, all kinds of stuff, right? But that stuff is in every direction. I need you guys to be focused in a particular direction to say, hey, I'm going to start from Fatiha and I want to get to Nas and I want to have a real relationship with this book. And then I want to keep deepening that relationship with this book. Before I let you go for the prayer, and I'll spell out what, I'll have Alina put it on the screen also, what website you can go to. One thing I will tell you is I myself, right now, I'm very much a student of the Quran. So I'm teaching you as not a teacher, but as an advanced student. I'm just ahead of you, that's all. But that doesn't mean I'm ahead of scholars. They're ahead of me, and I'm trying to catch up with my own learnings. So my own work on the Quran keeps getting enriched. And the more I learn, the more I pass down to who? To you guys. And then eventually a time will come for some of you that are speeding up, you are picking up momentum, you're going to be ahead of me. You're going to be, because I'm just a student, I'm just learning, and some of you will just be ahead. I'm like, hey, can you help me now? Can you help me too? Because this is not a contest. This is just, Allah opens some doors for others, for some people, and He opens other doors for others. There were students I know that I taught in a class like this one that have already finished their PhDs in Arabic studies and Quran studies and from Mecca and other places, and I learned from them. Even though they started with me. They far surpassed me. They far surpassed me. And you guys will too, if that's your intention, inshallah ta'ala. So let's make the intention that you're serious about developing a relationship, a really grounded relationship with the Quran. And inshallah, after the class, I won't talk to you about Arabic recommendations. I'm going to talk to you about your how to begin your journey with the Quran itself. Like, what does it actually mean to have a relationship with the Quran? And to have a lifestyle that's defined by a relationship with the Quran. So let's take a break for salah. Barakallahu wa lakum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Yes. Okay. Everyone, do you have recording devices, phones? If you do, if you can put your voice recorder on, I'm going to give you a review. It'll be very short, but it's something I want you to have on your devices handy so you can replay it. I will give you 1 minute to get ready, and I will begin. Everyone ready? Huh? Not right now, but yes, yes. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. These 10 days, we went through an entire course of study, beginning with, there are 3 kinds of words in Arabic, an ism, a fi'l, and a harf. An ism is a person, place, thing, idea, adjective, adverb, or more. A fi'l is a word stuck in either the past tense, the present tense, or the future tense. A harf is a word that makes no sense unless another word comes after it. When we started studying the ism, we discussed that the ism has 4 properties: status, number, gender, and type. When we studied status, the first of them, the first lesson under it was the forms of status, rafa' or nasb or jar. We discussed at the time that rafa' has 2 jobs. One job is that it's the doer. The other job is it's the default. If you have no reason to make it anything else, leave it in the rafa' form. Nasb has 2 jobs, which is either it's the detail of a fi'l, the object of a verb, or it's beat up by a harf of nasb, which we'll come to a little bit later. Jar also has 2 jobs. It's either after an of, which is a mudaf ilayh, as we will see later on, or it comes after a harf of jar. So that's your forms of status, rafa', nasb, jar. The second lesson we studied under status was how to tell status. You can tell status by ending sounds or by ending combinations. By ending sounds, I mean u or un for rafa', a or an for nasb, e or in for jar. And by ending combinations, I mean ani or a for 2 rafa', aini or ay for 2 nasb, aini or ay for 2 jar, una or u for plural rafa', ina or e for plural nasb, ina or e for plural jar, and then atun or atu for plural feminine rafa', atin or ati for plural feminine nasb, and atin and ati for plural feminine jar. This is what I meant by ending sounds and ending combinations. The third note I put there was pronouns are rebels. What that means is the independent ones are rafa', and only the attached ones can be considered nasb or jar, but more on that a little bit later. Okay, then we talked about light status versus heavy status. Normally an ism in Arabic should be heavy. All the words you memorized on page 6, Muslimun, Musliman, Muslimin, Muslimani, Muslimaini, Muslimaini, Muslimuna, Muslimina, Muslimina, Muslimatun, Muslimatan, Muslimatin, Muslimatani, Muslimataini, Muslimataini, Muslimatun, Muslimatin, Muslimatin, all of those are heavy. The light version of them would be Muslimu, Muslima, Muslimi, Muslima, Muslimai, Muslimai, Muslimu, Muslimi, Muslimi, Muslimatu, Muslimata, Muslimati, Muslimata, Muslimatai, Muslimatai, Muslimatu, Muslimati, Muslimati. We have only 4 reasons in Arabic to make an ism light. Otherwise, it should be normally heavy. Another thing that is important to note when figuring out what is the status of an ism is we should always look for the combination first and look for the sound second. Always look for combinations first. The 4 reasons for an ism to be light are either it's a mudaf, because a mudaf always has to be light, no alif lam, or it is someone you're calling, ya Karimu, ya Zaidu, etc., etc. The one you're calling has to become light. Incidentally, it's in your notes, but I didn't teach it to you. When you call someone who's a mudaf, then they also have to be nasb. What that means is, you don't say, Ya Rasulullah, you say, Ya Rasulallah. You don't say, Ya Abdullah, that's wrong, you say, Ya Abdullah. So the mudaf has to become nasb when it's if it's being called. But if I just called Zaid, I say, Ya Zaidu, I leave him rafa. Again, if I call someone who's a what? A mudaf. Like Allah's name is Rabbul Alameen, Rabbul Alameen. But when I call him, I don't say Ya Rabbul Alameen, I say Ya Rabbal Alameen. Ya Rabbal Alameen. Or Allah, one of Allah's names is a mudaf ilayh, Arhamar Rahimin, or Ahkam al Hakimin. When I call him, I say, Ya Ahkam al Hakimin. Ya Ahkama al Hakimin. Ya Arhama al Rahimin. But if I just call him directly with just one of his names, like Rahim, I say, Ya Rahimu. Ya Rahimu. So the only time that becomes nasab is if it's a mudaf. Anyway, so the first reason, once again, just to recap, the first reason was for an ism to be light is a mudaf. The second is if you're calling them. The third is absolutely no. So la ilaha is light. La rayba fihi is light. La ikraha fid din is light. This is called la an-nafiya lil jins, absolute categorical no in Arabic. And then the final reason why an ism should be light is that it's partly flexible. The technical term in Arabic is al-mamnu' min as-sarf. Urdu books of grammar call it ghayru munsarif. That doesn't matter. We call it partly flexible. I told you there are two things wrong with a partly flexible. One, it always has to be light. And two, it cannot take the E sound, u, a. Ibrahimu, Ibrahima, and Ibrahima. There are 7 different kinds of partly flexibles, but in this course, I only made you responsible for 2 of them, which are places and non-Arabs. A place could be Arab and still be partly flexible, like Makkatu, Makkata, Makkata, or Yathribu, Yathriba, Yathriba. And the only exception to this, if it's a foreign name, like Ibrahim is a foreign name, Yusuf is a foreign name, it's not Arab name, but if a foreign name becomes fully flexible, the only way it can do that if it's made up of 3 letters, like Nuhun, Nuhun, Nuhan, Nuhin, or Lutun, Lutan, Lutin, or Adnun, a location, Adnun, Adnan, and Adnin. So that can happen. An exception to this exception, which I didn't teach in this class, is actually the word for Egypt. Misru, Misra, Misra. Even though it's 3 letters, it's still partly flexible. I didn't drop that bomb on you earlier, but now it's time for you to deal with the pyramids. So Misru, Misra, and Misra. And the reason for that is actually the word Misr is an Arabic word already, which means countryside. And then Misr is also the word for a non-Arab land, Egypt. So there was a confusion between the Misr, the word that's Arabic, and Misr, the word that's not Arabic. So even though it's 3 letters, making it fully flexible would confuse it with the actual generic Arabic word, Misrun. So the Quran, when you see the word Misr in the Quran and it's fully flexible, that refers to countryside. And when you see the word Misr in the Quran and it's partly flexible, that refers to the land of Egypt. So ihbitu Misran fa inna lakum ma sa'altum in Surah Al-Baqarah is just any countryside. But alaysa li mulku Misra, light, partly flexible. Misra, that's referring to what? Egypt. Okay, so that's the difference between them. Once again, now I'm going to go briefly. We said the forms of status, rafa' nasab jar. We so far said sounds and combinations for how to tell status, and pronouns are rebels. Then the third was light status versus heavy status, and the 4 reasons a word should be light. And then finally, we talked about the flexibility of status, fully flexible, partly flexible, and non-flexible. The vast majority of words in the Arabic language are fully flexible. That's what you learned on page 6, ending sounds and ending combinations. That's the whole system. Non-flexible words are a handful of words in Arabic that don't change whether they're rafa' or nasab or jar. The wrong thing to say is they are not rafa', nasab, or jar. The right thing to say is they do not show rafa' or nasab or jar. They do have a status, they just cannot show it to you. An easy example of non-flexible words is words that end with alif, like Isa or Huda or Hadha. Once they end with alif, you can't do anything. But it's not limited to that, there are others too. That leaves us with the partly flexible category. And again, we covered this already, but just to remind you, partly flexibles for you right now are places and non-Arabs. The rafa' version is u, the nasab version is a, and the jar version is also a. Incidentally, going back on light and heavy, one important reminder is when you put al on a word, like al-muslimu, then we no longer care about the question of light versus heavy, but you should know how to say the Muslim chart with al on it, because it's different from the light chart and it's different from the heavy chart. It's its own identity. So let's go through that. Al-muslimu, al-muslima, al-muslimi, المسلماني المسلمين المسلمين المسلمون المسلمين المسلمين المسلمة المسلمتا المسلمتي المسلمتان المسلمتين المسلمتين المسلمات المسلمات المسلمات. In other words, the extra nouns on the combination stay, the tanweens go away. That's with al. Okay, that was our study of status. Then we went on to the study of number, where the singular we already know. The pair is ani, aini, aini, we already know. The issue with number study was the 5 kinds of plurals. That's really where the meat of the subject was, 5 kinds of plurals. The first kind of plural is the masculine plural, una, ina, ina, which you memorized as muslimuna, muslimina, muslimina. Those plurals are referring to people or intelligent beings. People or intelligent beings, jinns, angels. Sometimes it can even be used for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for royalty. Then you have the atun, atin, atin, which can be used for women, but it can be used for non-humans too, like ayatun, ayatin, samawatun, samawatin. It can be used for Muslim women too, muslimatun, muslimatin, kafiratun, kafiratin, munafiqatun, munafiqatin, etc. Right? Those are the feminine plurals. Then there are plurals because the Arabs said so. I gave you 3 words that are plural just because the Arabs said they're plural. Qawmun, nasun, and qarnun. Technically they're called ismu jama', the words that are plural by definition. Just by definition, they're considered plural because the Arab said so. That leads us to the technical category, broken plurals, jam'u taksir, broken plurals. And the broken plurals are of 2 kinds, human broken plurals and non-human broken plurals. The way the Arabs talk about this is jam'u taksir aqil and jam'u taksir ghayru aqil. Possessing intellect, not possessing intellect. No reference to your cousin. Anyway, so non-human broken plurals, the Arabs pretend that they're going to consider it a she. What that means is they might use a fi'l with it that's feminine singular. They might use an adjective for it that is also feminine singular. They might use a pointer for it, hadihi, that is feminine singular. That's what that means, that they're considering it a she. With human broken plurals like ulama or aqwam or words like that, words that refer to human beings, anbiya, rusul, kuffar, etc. Those kinds of words can be considered she, but can actually be considered what they really are. So to take 2 opposite examples for you to remember, rijal and nisa are both broken plurals. Rijal and nisa. Rijal means men, nisa means women, and they're both broken plurals. Rijalun could be considered singular feminine grammatically, or plural masculine because that's what they really are. Nisa could be considered singular feminine grammatically, or feminine plural because that's what they really are. So your 2 options are either singular feminine or reality. Those are your options, okay? That's our study of number. Number gets done. The only other comment I'll make as a helpful hint for you is broken plurals are mischievous. You don't know they are broken plurals until you learn their what? Meaning. Without meaning, they look like singular because they end with ending sounds. They don't have combinations that give them away. Okay, so that was status, and that was also number. Moving on to gender. We don't study the masculine because the assumption in Arabic is every ism is by default masculine. We only study the feminine. Within feminine, there are 2 categories, real feminine and fake feminine. Real feminine requires common sense, which is becoming more and more rare nowadays. But real feminine is a biological quality that has been around since the beginning, since Allah created Adam alayhi salam and our mother Hawa salamun alayha. That's real biological feminine. Whether it's animals or human beings, that's the female. Now, the fake feminine is where the grammar work comes in. Because in English, we have he, she, and it. But in Arabic, even for the it, it's either going to be a huwa or a hiya. There's no it, technically. So everything has to have a gender. Because everything has 4 properties. A book has 4 properties, including gender. The sun has 4 properties, including gender. That doesn't mean the sun has a biological gender. It means it has a grammatical gender. Okay? Now, what are the things that make a word feminine? If you find these things, then a word may be feminine. If you don't find them, then it's automatically assumed masculine. The first category is certain letters at the end, the ta marbuta, what I've jokingly called the hijab, the ha with the 2 dots on top. It can make a word feminine, and I say the word can knowingly because there will be cases where you will see the ta marbuta and the word will still not be feminine. So that will depend on context, okay? The second is the alif maqsura, which is a ya with a dagger on top. And sometimes they don't write the dagger on top, but it's understood. like al-husna, al-kubra, al-yusra, al-uthma, etc., etc. Those are considered feminine, and those are usually superlative words. What that means, and I didn't teach you that in this class, but I'm telling you now. Al-husna means the most beautiful. Al-uthma means the greatest. Al-kubra means the biggest. Okay? Al-yusra means the easiest. So it's the EST, the superlatives that are used in this pattern, feminine superlatives. Okay? Then there was the alif mamduda, the stretched out alif with a hamza at the end. And this is also considered, technically it's also considered partly flexible, but that's for a later study. What you need to know is you might find these endings and they will be considered feminine. Typically this is for colors or for sicknesses. So bayda'u is yellow, sawda'u is black, hamra'u is red, khadra'u is green, zarqa'u is blue. All them that stretched alif with a hamza at the end, that's the feminine version of those colors, okay? And similarly, bodily defects like bakma'u and, auja'u, arja'u, etc., like a mute person, or samma'u, a woman who can't speak, or a woman who can't hear, or amya'u, a woman who's blind, etc. Those words are considered feminine because of the stretched alif at the end. Okay, so that's one category, 3 letters. Ta marbuta, alif maqsura, alif mamduda. That's one way you can tell a fake feminine. The second way you can tell a fake feminine is feminine because the Arab said so on page 13 in your notes. Harb, nafs, dalu, shams, ard, bi'r. Those random khamr, like there's a bunch of words in Arabic that just are and all the words for Jahannam are feminine. But you should feel better. Jannah is also feminine from Tamar so it's okay, it's balanced. So those words are feminine, and body parts and pairs are also considered feminine. So the hand in Arabic is feminine. That's why it's tabbat yada abi lahab. It's the bat, the at is nasarat, right? It's feminine. So it's used for the hands of Abu Lahab, right? So anyway, so that's the second reason why words can be fake. So the first reason is the endings. The second reason is feminine because the Arab said so. The third reason is going to be broken plurals. We already covered that. Human and non-human. And they may be considered a she, which is a kind of a fake feminine, right? So that's basically it. These are words that are considered feminine for these reasons, for these fake reasons. Other than that, you're good. If you don't find these evidences, automatically what are you going to assume? That the word is what? Now, the ism is masculine. I shouldn't say word, I should say ism. The ism is masculine, fine. The gender study is done. Now we come to final study, type. So status, number, gender, and type. Type is either the word is common or proper. The default condition is all words are assumed to be common, and you have to have one of 7 evidences to prove that a word is proper. And those are words with al on them, like al-muslimu, the Muslim specifies it. A pronoun is specification, huwa, he, she, you, I, they, we, etc. All pronouns, whether they are rafa, nasab, or jar, are proper. Pointers are all proper, hadha, hadani, haulai. Since we're on this, we should go through this. The pronouns are huwa, huma, hum, hiya, huma, hunna, anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna, ana, nahnu. The attached version of huwa is hu or he, huma, huma, hum, hum, hiya, ha, huma, huma, or hima, hunna, hunna, or hinna, anta, ka, antuma, kuma, antum, kum, antiki, antuma, kuma, antunna, kunna, ana, ni, or e, and nahnu, na. Huwa means he, huma is both of them, hum is they, hiya is she, huma is both of them, hunna is them ladies. Anta is you, antuma both of you, antum all of you, anti the feminine you, antuma both of you ladies, antunna you all women. Ana is I, and nahnu is we. The independent ones are all rafa status. The attached ones can only be nasab or jar. If they're attached to a harf of nasab, they're nasab. If they're attached to a fi'il, they're also nasab. If they're attached to a harf of jar, they're jar. And if they're attached to an ism, they're also jar. 4 situations. 2 nasab situations, 2 jar situations. That's your pronoun story. Then you get to pointers, which are also proper. Pointers are hadha, hadani, haulai, hadihi, hatani, haulai, dhalika, dhanika, ulaika, tilka, tanika, ulaika. They are on page 30 in your notes, as opposed to page 18, which was for the pronouns. By the way, the pages you must memorize for this class to excel in this material are pages 6, 18, 27, 28, 30, 33, 39, 45, and 47. You need to know those pages. And those are, we've already done 6. 18 is the pronouns, 27 is the harf of jar, 28 is the harf of nasb, and then 30 is the pointers, 33 is the past tense, 39 is the present tense, 45 is the light harf, 47 is the lightest harf. That's the stuff you're supposed to, it's just 9. That means 9 days. That's all that means. So stop crying about it, okay? So many pages. No, it's not. It's very little stuff, okay? So anyway, so pointers are always proper. And then alladhi, alladhani, alladhina, allati, allatani, allati, allai, allawati, which you don't know yet, but that's okay. They're called the ism mawsul. They are also considered always proper. When you call someone, it's always proper, using the word ya, right? What am I missing? Proper names. We already covered that. And if a mudaf ilayh is proper, then the mudaf becomes proper automatically. These are the words that are proper. Anything other than this will automatically be assumed to be common. General big words in Arabic, the easy way to tell if they're common or proper: 1, you don't see alif lam; 2, they're not a mudaf. When you see those 2 things, chances are this word's common. Okay? That's an easy giveaway, generally speaking. Those are the 4 properties of the ism, which led us to do 5 fragments. The 5 fragments are mudaf, mudaf ilayh, both isms, the mudaf is light, no alif lam, followed by the mudaf ilayh, that is jar. They have to be next to each other, and an of meaning is created between the 2 of them. And they are the first fragment where you cannot separate them from each other. There are 3 kinds of mudaf, mudaf ilayh. Regular mudaf, mudaf ilayh, like Rasulullah, Kitabullah, Masjidul Muslimin, etc., etc. Those are mudaf, mudaf ilayh, easy ones. The second kind of mudaf, mudaf ilayh are mudaf is an ism and the mudaf ilayh is a pronoun. Kitabuka, kitabuhu, kitabi, etc. That's also mudaf, mudaf ilayh. And then there are special mudafs on page 20. Which are bayna, tahta, fawqa, ba'da, before, after, above, below, those kinds of words. They're naturally mudaf, and the word that comes after them is a mudaf ilayh, even though you don't get the meaning of an of from those words. So that's your first fragment, mudaf and mudaf ilayh. And of course, I remind you again, the mudaf ilayh is proper, which means that the mudaf becomes proper. The 3 properties of a mudaf are from itself. The 4th property type comes from the mudaf ilayh. The mudaf ilayh is a unit, which means that you have to look at them as one concept. You shouldn't separate them. Just like grammatically they're bound together, meaningfully they're also bound together. The second fragment was the harf of jar. You can try to do this with me. Ba, ta, kaf, lam, waw, min, fi, an, ala, hatta, ila. Immediately following them, there has to be an ism, and that ism has to be in jar status. The harf of jar gets called the jar. The ism that it beats up into jar status is called the majroor. The third fragment is the harf of nasb and its ism, inna, annaka, anna, bi, anna, layta, lakinna, la'alla. And these words want their ism to be nasb status, but they don't need it to be right after. It could be a little bit further down. That's 3 fragments now. Mudaf, mudaf ilayh, harf jar, harf nasb. Then there is mawsuf sifa, nouns and adjectives. You can have one mawsuf, you can have multiple sifas. Mawsuf has 4 properties: status, number, gender, type. Every sifa has to have the same exact 4 properties. If your mawsuf is a broken plural, chances are your adjective, your sifa, can be singular and feminine because it's trying to match. If your mawsuf is a plural because the Arab said so, like qawm, you might find that the adjective is plural by una or ina, because it's trying to match with a word that's plural because the Arab said so. Those are the unusual cases. Just like a harf of nasb, mawsuf sifa don't have to be right next to each other. There may be some distance or gap between them. Okay, so that's our 4th fragment. Finally, our last fragment is the ismul ishara and the musharun ilayh. When we studied that, we talked about looking for the invisible is. هذا هذاني هؤلاء هذه هاتان هؤلاء ذلك ذانك أولئك تلك تانك أولئك. The first 6 that start with ha, هذا هذاني هؤلاء هذه هاتان هؤلاء. These words are feminine, these words are close. This, both of these and these, those are those words. And ذَلِكَ ذَانِكَ أُولَٰئِكَ تِلْكَ تَانِكَ أُولَٰئِكَ. All the ones that end with ka, those are the words that are far away. That, those 2, etc. Okay? These words, if you have an al right after them, it creates a fragment. Okay? So هَذَا الْقُرْآنُ means this Quran. But if you don't have an al right after them, like هَذَا كِتَابُ اللَّهِ, then it becomes a sentence, this is the book of Allah. So the moment there's no al right after them, an is created between the pointer and the words that follow, creating an entire sentence. But if you want to get a fragment, you have to put them next to each other. Just like the mawsuf and the sifa, they have the same 4 properties. Hada has 4 properties. It's musharun ilay, meaning the word that has al on it has the exact same 4 properties. Okay, and that's part of the conditions of ismul ishara and musharun ilay. Finally, a small technicality I mentioned: if you want to make a fragment using a mudaf, meaning you want to point at a mudaf, what that means is I want to say this book of Allah, this book of Allah, then you have to put the pointer at the end, kitabullahi hadha. You can't say hadha kitabullah because that would become a sentence. Kitabullahi hadha would mean this book of Allah. That's the pointer in the fragment. Those were our 5 fragments. Then we moved on to shortcuts for sentences. If you have a pronoun that's independent, like huwa, huma, hum, hiya, huma, hunna, etc., immediately follow it by is. If you have a harf of nasab followed by its ism, chances are there's an is after it. Inna Allah means certainly Allah is. Assume there's an is there, okay? Then proper followed by common. If a word is proper and you see a common after it, like Allahu Akbar, right? That would mean there's an is in between them. And then I also gave you a break in the chain. A break in the chain means you learn 5 fragments. Each fragment is mudaf chained to mudaf ilay, jar chained to majroor, harf nasab chained to ism, mawsuf chained to sifa, ismul ishara chained to musharun ilay. The moment you see words are not chained together and in a series of isms, you can put an is there. That's a break in the sentence. This is a more complicated subject than that. This is your baby rules. Later on, I'll teach you something called sentence structure, where you will learn this more formally as a science, and you'll be able to identify different parts of a sentence. Okay, so that was our study of the ism. Life moved on, and we started studying the past tense. We memorized huwa nasara, huma nasara, hum nasaru, hiya nasarat, huma nasarata, hunna nasarna, anta nasarta, antuma nasartuma, antum nasartum, anti nasarti, antuma nasartuma, antunna nasartunna, ana nasartu, nahnu nasarna. Here we're paying attention to the endings. Any word you see, you can convert this way. So if I see kharaja, you can make it huwa kharaja, huma kharaja, hum kharaju, hiya kharajat, etc., etc. When you see these endings, each one of those endings tells you who did it, who's the doer of that past tense act. And then we learn 2 additional things about the past tense, which apply to all fi'il. One, you can attach a pronoun to it. So nasara ni, I can attach a ni at the end. When you see an attached pronoun, you ignore it at first, even though you know what it means and where it came from. By the way, it came from page 18. You ignore it, you just translate nasara, he helps. Then you can translate ni, nasara ni means he helped me. If you don't follow this process, you will make the mistake of looking at ni, thinking it means me, and you'll translate I helped, which is absolutely wrong, haram, bid'ah, kufr, and etc., etc. Okay? So don't do that. Nasara ni, he helped me. Okay, now, that's the past tense with the attached pronoun. Then we talked about the outside doer. If you have the huwa version or the hiya version, you should look for the possibility of an outside doer, which means an ism that will come after and will be rafa. It doesn't have to be immediately after, it could be sometime after. Moving on, we studied the present tense. The present tense, if you were to memorize it one day, will sound like this. Huwa yansuru, huma yansurani, hum yansuruna, hiya tansuru, huma tansurani, hunna yansurna, anta tansuru, antuma tansurani, antum tansuruna, anti tansurina, antuma tansurani, antunna tansurna, ana ansuru, nahnu nansuru. However, for you, to give you baby steps, I said there are 12 shortcuts. A or u means I. Na or nu means we. Ya or you means he. Ya with ani means both of them. Ya with una means they. Ya with na means those women. Just like there are 4 kinds of ya, there are 4 kinds of ta. Ta means you. Ta with ani means both of you. Ta with una means all of you. Ta with na means you ladies. Ta by itself can also mean she, which I called 7-11 because it was item 7 and item 11. And then ta with ina is the feminine you, anti. Tansurina, ta and ina, that means anti. Those were the clues. When you look at a present tense, you look at the beginning, then you look at the end. An important shortcut for you, never look at the end first, because when you see una, you just say they, but it could be ta and una, which does not mean they, it means all of you. Right? So look for the beginning, and then look for the ending, and then translate carefully. Okay. So that was the present tense. We then moved on to learn something about the light present tense and the lightest present tense. The light harf are an, lan, likay, idhan, hatta. An means to or that. Lan means will not. Likay means so that. Idhan means in that case. And hatta means until. In, then the lightest harf are in, lam, lamma, and li. In means if, lam means did not, lamma means not yet, and li means should. Above in the light harf, likay can be said in three ways. You can say likay, you can say li, and you can also say kay. Below, li, which means should, when it comes with a wa or a fa, it sounds like wal and fal. Wal and fal, which still means should. Now, how do you make yansuru or tansuru or ansuru light? You make it yansura, tansura, ansura. How do you make them lightest? Yansur, tansur, ansur. How do you take words that have a noon at the end, like yansurani and yansuruna? How do you make them light? You get rid of the noon. Yansurani becomes yansura. Yansuruna becomes yansuru. And that's the exact same thing you do when you make them L+, meaning lightest. So yansurani, the light version is yansura. The lightest version is also yansura. Yansuruna, the light version is yansuru. The lightest version is also yansuru, and so on. But there are two words on page 39 in those conjugations, ya with na and ta with na, which means those women and you women, they do not change. The normal version is yansurna, the light version is yansurna, the lightest version is also yansurna. The normal, light, and lightest is all tansurna, tansurna, tansurna. That was normal, light, and lightest when it comes to the present tense. The same formula applies. You can have an attached pronoun, ignore the attached pronoun, figure out the beginning, then attach the pronoun. You can also have the same thing, the huwa or the hiya version can be used, and you can have an outside doer, the same way that we used to have for the past tense. So an outside fa'il can also happen with the present tense. Then we talked about forbidding and commanding. And I gave you a list of common sense rules for forbidding and commanding. We won't go over that, but I will tell you the rules. The rule for forbidding is la, followed by the lightest present tense in the second person. Lightest present tense in the second person. La tansur, anta la tansur, don't help. Antuma la tansura, neither of you should help. Antum la tansuru, don't help, all of you. Anti la tansuri, like the angels told Maryam, la tahzani, don't be sad, Maryam, la tahzani. Because he's feminine, so it's ta and ina, so it becomes la tahzani, okay? Or Allah told Adam and Hawa, don't go near the tree. Antuma la taqraba hadhihi shajara, okay? But when he told us to stay away from the money of the orphan, which is taqrabuna, he said, la taqrabu mal al-yatim. La taqrabu, all of you stay away from, don't go near the money of the orphan, right? So that's forbidding. When it comes to commanding, things get a little bit more tricky. You're still using the anta versions. You're going to make it the lightest at the end. You're going to remove the ta from the beginning. When you remove the ta from the beginning, one of two things will happen. One, you can read the word and you're fine. Like tujahidu becomes jahid. You're good. That's a command. Or you remove the word like taqra'u becomes qra'. And now you can't read it, so you have to add an alif. And once you add an alif, that alif can only have one of two sounds, u or e, which will be determined by the second last letter. If the second last letter has u on it, that alif will get an u. If it has anything else, it will get an e. So in the case of qra', it will become iqra'. Those were all the rules you learned in this class. Okay? How long did that take? Half an hour? Half an hour, 30 minutes? Yeah, 10 days and 30 minutes. No big deal. Easy peasy. Okay. Now, why are we doing all this? Why did you spend all this time here? Why? What made you do it? I want you to know something, or remind yourself of something that I remind myself of all the time. Before the Quran came, before Allah decided to speak to human beings directly for the last time, the last time Allah spoke to human beings and delivered something to them, revealed something to them, was Isa alayhi salam, before the Quran. Almost 6 centuries went by and humanity went into darkness. And the last message that was given to Isa alayhi salam was distorted to the point where the one thing that Islam has been teaching from the beginning, the worship of one God, became the worship of three. Like the best hope was that at least the final revelation and a prophet that was given more miracles than any other prophet, Isa alayhi salam. He was giving miracle on top of miracle on top of miracle on top of miracle on top of miracle. I mean, his whole life from birth to death is miracles. And that resulted even then in a loss of the word of Allah. To the point where the communities that did have something left, the Arabs in the desert still knew the name Ibrahim. They knew it. They knew it. They knew Ismail. They knew it. They were even, the people in Makkah used to do Hajj. Where do you think they learned the word Hajj from? Where did they get it from? Where do you think it came from? They used to slaughter the animal. In the day before Islam, they used to slaughter the animal. Where do you think that came from? No, it came from the times of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Some faint memory of a religion that has now morphed into something else completely, but some traces of it are there. Some traces of it are there. This is what humanity had in its possession. And then Allah decided that before the world comes to an end, that Allah should, and if He should stop sending messengers over and over again, He'll send one messenger one last time, and that's enough for humanity until the Day of Judgment. And the only reason it's enough is that those words, unlike the words given to Jesus, unlike the words given to Moses, unlike the words given to Salih or Shu'aib or even Ibrahim alayhi salam, these words will no longer be distorted and will no longer be lost. And they will no longer be corrupted. And they will no longer be translated as per the whims of people. And they will no longer be confused between the Word of God and the interpretation of the Word of God. The Word of God will remain pure and distinct from human efforts to understand it. So there will be Quran, and then there will be tafsir. They'll be separate. And everybody will know the difference. Because what happened in the older traditions is the Word of God and the commentary on the Word of God became one thing. You couldn't even separate it in the line. You wouldn't know where the revelation is and where the revelation ended. That ended forever. There will be absolute clarity for human beings to be able to engage in the Word of God directly. And so, for centuries, Muslims didn't translate the Quran. Centuries. There were some efforts here and there. Salman al-Farsi allegedly translated the Fatiha. There were some minor translation efforts here and there. By and large, when Islam went to Africa, when Islam went to Asia, when Islam went to Europe, you don't find European translations of the Quran that are 1,000 years old. You don't find Chinese translations of the Quran, it's not a common thing. This didn't happen. Why not? Because there was something the Muslims understood for centuries. This is the direct word of God. And instead of surrendering it to our language, we will surrender ourselves to its language. We will give ourselves to its learning. And what happened in the story of Muslims, your story and my story. I'm standing here today, you're sitting here today because of thousands of stories that came before us, that followed this book. And what's remarkable about them is the people that preserved the Quran and the people that preserved the Arabic language, the people that commented on the language of the Quran, that codified the grammar that I'm trying to simplify and teach you, the vast majority of those people were not Arabs. They were not Arabs. Sibawayh is not an Arab. The great hadith collectors are not Arabs. The great commentators of the Quran, like Zamakhshari on the linguistic analysis of the Quran, Fakhruddin al-Razi, Imam al-Qurtubi, these are not Arabs. But they came from all over the world. They were from different civilizations, and they understood something. This book is not about a race. Usually, Urdu belongs to a certain race of people. Dari belongs to a race of people. Bahasa Malayo belongs to a race of people. Bahasa Indonesia belongs to a different race of people. Tamil belongs to a race of people. Malayalam belongs to a race of people. Senegalese belongs to a race of people. Language is tied to races. And the only time languages become more common than races, like the Algerians speaking French or the Moroccans speaking Spanish, is when they get colonized and they get imposed on, and the language is ripped from them, and the new language of the master is forced down their throats for them to learn the language of the new master, which is why English became such a common language in India, for example, is because the master taught it. India had a rich heritage of many languages, but we had to learn the language of the superior master, and so we became indoctrinated in English, right? But you know what? Quran took a different formula. Arabic never went to Malaysia. Quran never went to Malaysia and got rid of the Malay language. The Quran didn't go to India and got rid of Hindi and Urdu, and it didn't. Muslims everywhere kept their culture, kept their language. But you know what else they did? They learned Arabic. And they mastered Arabic. Because they knew something. This is their direct link to who? The more direct your link is to the word of Allah, the more direct your link is to Allah Himself. You know, the Quran is called the rope of Allah. You know that? وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ. It's interesting in the Quran, there are two phrases. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ. Hold on to the rope of Allah for protection. I'tisam means to protect yourself, to hold on to something. Kind of like fasten your seat belts. When you tighten and hold on, for what purpose? To protect yourself. In case of emergency, grab the railing. That's called i'tisam. If a man falls off of a boat and he's holding on to the anchor of the boat, just hugging it, what's he doing? He's doing i'tisam. He's holding on to it for protection. Because the i'tisam comes from the word isma. Isma means protection. Allah says, hold on for your own protection to what? To the rope of Allah. And the rope of Allah described by the Prophet ﷺ is huwa hablullahi al-mateen. This is the Quran itself. But what's remarkable in the Quran is Allah didn't just say وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. He also said وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِاللَّهِ. Hold on for protection to Allah. Holding on was used in two ways. Hold on to Allah's rope and also hold on to Allah, which is Allah's way of teaching us many lessons, one of which is this is one and the same thing. Holding on to the word of Allah translates into holding on to Allah. Letting go of the word of Allah. I'll let you fill in the blank for that one. Letting go of the word of Allah. Now, how does a nation let go of the word of Allah? There were people that came before us. Did you know that in Jewish history, the Torah was lost? It was actually lost. And the language was actually lost too. They were so invaded and oppressed as a people that their religion was stripped from them. And the Torah was actually lost for some time. They didn't have it. How could they hold on to Allah when they couldn't hold on to what? The word of Allah. They couldn't do it. They couldn't hold on to the word of Allah. And actually, it's interesting Islamic history that the Muslims helped restore knowledge of Hebrew because it's a sister language to Arabic, and Torah was restored. But the one thing that happened among the Israelites that even Jesus criticized, the people before us, one thing that happened among them is many people used to recite their book for blessings without knowing what it says. إِنَّمَا يَقْتَصِرُونَ عَلَى مَا يُتْلَى عَلَيْهِمْ. In one commentary, they're completely happy so long as it's being recited on them. So long as they hear the blessed sounds, that's good enough for them. That's good enough for them. Allah spoke to humanity for the last time. Spoke to humanity for the last time. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine that you were raised in America, so you didn't learn your mother tongue. You didn't learn it. So you don't know, maybe you came from Bangladesh, you don't speak any Bangla because you were Americanized. You're, a burger and French fry, Bangladeshi young boy. And your grandmother from Bangladesh sends you a letter, like she sends you a voice note, her last message to you. In what language? In Bangla. With tears, with love, with dua for you. In what language? And you know nothing of this language. And you just listen to it because it feels good because it's from your grandma. And you listen to it all the time, and you listen to it all the time. Whenever I miss her, I just play this. And somebody says, what did she say? I goes, what? No, I just like hearing the sounds. Because I love her so much. If you love her so much, why didn't you ever want to find out what? What she's saying. How come you didn't want to know? You don't want to feel her words? You don't. And I'm talking about just someone who loves you in this world. Every bit of love that exists in this world is a small, insignificant byproduct of the love, the origin of all love, Al-Wadud, Allah Himself, who decided to speak to me this way. He decides how He speaks. He decides, and He decided to speak to me this way. And then I say, it sounds so nice. It sounds so beautiful. But I can hear somebody else tell me what it says. Let me read somebody else tell me what it says. Because I don't need to feel it directly. I don't need to know what it says directly. You tell me something. Those of you that come from cultures where there's a lot of poetry. Like I come from Pakistan. I have an Urdu background, and Urdu has a lot of poetry. Some of you I see here are from Afghanistan. Farsi has a ton of poetry. Okay, like if you read Rumi before, for example. If you read Iqbal before, for example, right? If I were to say to you, I'll translate Iqbal in English. Here. You sit there, you're listening to Rumi, and you're like, oh, Jaka Maqbulas. How amazing. Oh. And your son, who doesn't speak any Farsi, says, what is it? Let me tell you. The rose, when it blossoms, it turns to... You're like, what? I don't get it. This is what... What's so great about this? I don't see why this is so amazing. You're like, you don't know because you can't feel it. There's something original and beautiful and majestic in the original words of the poet. There's an artistry that can't be translated. Art cannot be translated. Emotion cannot be translated. Beauty cannot be translated. Beauty has to be tasted by the original experience. But when it comes to the word of Allah, the most beautiful of all, an attitude came into the ummah. So long as somebody translated it, that should be enough. I don't need to taste it myself. I don't need to feel a direct connection because there's so many translations available. There's no need. And that same person, if you say, let me translate, some kids here into hip-hop or something, let me translate these rhymes into Punjabi and tell them to my grandmother. Let me translate these rhymes into... You guys are like, what is this nonsense? No, you gotta come to the original language. Is something lost? So we can feel the loss in a movie, you can feel the loss in poetry, you can feel the loss in artistic speech, but how dare I not even feel that there's something lost when God's word is being translated by a human being? Like Allah's speech has a certain beauty that human speech can never ever, how can you even compare? How can you even compare? There's one thing that we don't know Arabic. That's not a crime. You were born in a country where they don't speak Arabic, that's not a crime, that's not your fault. You know what is a crime? To be a Muslim and not even feel the loss. Like not even feel that something is missing. What's the big deal? That is a crime. That is a crime. And the first time I felt that, because I didn't know Arabic, and I heard the Quran the person who was explaining it to me, I could see that he feels it. He feels something. And because of him, I'm starting to feel something. But the more I felt it, the more angrier I got. I was born in a Muslim country. I was raised in Muslim lands. How come nobody told me this feeling exists? I didn't even know what I was missing. I didn't even know. And that feeling is worth every ounce of effort and energy and commitment I have in my being. It's worth it. As you start engaging in the study of the Quran, something else happens. When you start learning Arabic, you're like, oh, this word is a mudaf. That word's a mudaf ilayh. This is a mubtada. That's a khabar. Ooh, that's a khabar muqaddam. This is ikhtisas. This one says, Ibn Ashur says this. Alusi says this. Razi says this. Al-Mu'jam al-Ishtiqaqi said this. Imam Raghib al-Asfahani said this. The root of this is this. And you get knowledge and knowledge and knowledge and knowledge and knowledge. Data. So much data. So much information. So much stuff. And over time, you know what happens? The Quran, the word of Allah, becomes an intellectual exercise. It just becomes, you know what it sounds like? NPR. You know, I give the NPR example. Remember NPR? If you have nothing to do in your life and you're stuck in traffic at 3 p.m. on a highway somewhere, and you're just like, I need this hopelessness to get worse, you tune into NPR. And there's an interview going on with somebody who decided to do a PhD in basket weaving. And they're describing, yeah, the wicker, the way you sew it, it's so remarkable. And you're just sitting there like, can somebody just put me in a basket right now? Like, why is this? You know what that is? That's an empty intellectual exercise, is what that is. They're like, so what did you feel when you took that role? How did you feel? I was feeling a little itchy. I had a rash. The Quran, the word of Allah, you won't even realize it, can slowly start becoming what? An empty intellectual exercise. Even worse, for younger people here, you guys are in the age of TikTok, Instagram, Snap. You're in the age of wanting to be an influencer. Right? Because you're not influenced, you dish out influence. So now you must learn stuff, cool stuff, Islamic stuff, because you want to become an Islamic influencer. And the only reason you want to learn it is so you have something new to put out on your channel. I want to give you a reminder about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala today. Do you? Or do you want to increase the scope of your influence? Was this for the sake of Allah? Why you keep checking the comments? Why you keep checking how many more followers? Is that what you call for the sake of Allah? That sounds like that's like a thirst for social media engagement. الَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاءُونَ comes to mind. Those who put on a show. Those who put on this is why you learn? You learn so you can demonstrate? You learn more so you can demonstrate? The Quran, Allah says, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَذِكْرَى لِمَنْ كَانَ لَهُ قَلْبٌ. In it, there's a powerful reminder for those who have a heart. I'll take you back where I started and I'll end. Before this revelation came, the word of Allah became hard to access. Whatever word of Allah was there was in the hands of a few, even that was being corrupted. The vast majority of people had zero access to what? What does God want from me? They had no access to it. None. You know how one of the ways Allah describes that? He describes that as فَقَسَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ. Their hearts became hard. Their hearts became, he didn't say their minds became stupid. He didn't criticize their minds. What did he criticize? Their heart. They didn't feel anything. They didn't feel any connection to Allah. How can you feel a connection to someone who's never talked to you? Who doesn't communicate with you? How do you feel a connection to someone who doesn't communicate with you? Even in your family, if you don't talk to your brother, or you don't talk to your husband or wife, or you don't talk to your mom or your dad, over time, what happens to that relationship when one is not talking to the other? There's no relationship left. And if only one does all the talking, and the other is silent, then is it true that one person might develop a very twisted understanding of the relationship? You have people talking to God all the time. And in their mind, God is always what? He has nothing to say. He's silent. Is that a conversation? No. Then you start answering on His behalf yourself, don't you? That's what happens. You're not letting Him speak. He's spoken. He spoke to me. He spoke to you directly. Hearts start becoming hard. Allah even comments about that of the people of knowledge before us. Actually, people who learn the book of Allah have a bigger danger of their hearts becoming hard. And I'll tell you why. Because when they learn the book of Allah, they know more than other people around them. Which makes them feel like what? Superior. So this becomes a clout. The more book you know, the more clout you have. Now you look at somebody else who knows something and you're like, he doesn't know as much as I do though, so. Now it's no longer about humbling yourself before the word of God. It's actually about establishing where you rank. This is about your own rank or my own rank. You know, where do I stand in comparison to someone else? This is what I want to warn you about. You're about to head on a path where you have to protect your heart. You have to protect your heart. And there's no secret formula on how to protect your heart. I don't believe in one. I don't believe there's if you really want to protect your heart, here's a mystical, ancient technique that's been secretly passed down in this cult. And only when you join this cult for a measly price of $19.99 per week, we will let you know on the spiritual secrets of the universe. No. Allah said it. يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ. Start reciting the Quran. Listen to the Quran with your heart. Even if I study tafsir, I study Quran, but you know what? Even now when I listen to the Quran being recited, or I just sit there and recite the Quran, that is an experience for here. And the study is an experience for here. And this is irreplaceable with this. They're two very different experiences. Completely different. So the recitation has to become what one of my teachers, Shaykh Dawood Busnan, called qira'atu qalb, reading it with your heart. Not reading it with grammar. Not reading it with tafsir. Reading it with what? Your heart. And then you're going to study more and you're going to develop a richer appreciation of it. And then when you come back and you recite again, the richness of what you read with your heart gets deeper. This book is both spiritual and intellectual at the same time. It's both of those things at the same time. You guys are now in this journey. It's too late for you. It's not, I'm inviting you to join this. Listen, the vast majority of people over the last 10 days in this 3-mile radius didn't do what you did. That doesn't make you better, but it certainly does mean Allah opened a door for you that He didn't open for other people, doesn't it? And He put it on your record and mine that we did this. And then now the question is, فَيَنْظُرَ كَيْفَ تَعْمَلُونَ. Let's see what you do now. Let's see what you do now. That's the question you have to ask yourselves. There's plenty of ways we can waste our lives away. There's not much life left for none of us. There's not much left. The question is, how much of this life am I going to spend consuming myself with Allah Himself speaking to me? It deserves it, in my opinion. My job is to try to facilitate your path, inshallah, to try to make it as easy as possible for you to grow and you continue to learn. The entire project of Bayyinah TV was just one thing, Quran. I didn't want it to be all things Islam. People said, why don't you have an Islamic history section? Why don't you have a fiqh section? Why don't you have this? I was like, no. There's plenty of people that are doing plenty of things. You know, the one thing that I feel is an orphan in Islamic studies and Islamic engagement is the study of the Quran. Like, who's spending time studying Quran? Allah's own speech. Who's got time for, let's spend a year on Surah Al-An'am. Really? No. Tell me about Islamic mortgages. Tell me about nail polish. Can we have some moon fighting? Can we just do moon fighting? That's way more interesting. Can we debate the, LGBTQ? Let's do that. That's way more happening in the moment. Let's talk about environmental protection. Let's talk about Islam and politics. Let's do all these other subjects. It's great. You know what? Those are all valuable discussions. That's excellent. I would argue when Allah says, وَكَلِمَةُ اللَّهِ هِيَ الْعُلْيَا, the word of Allah is in the highest place. I didn't say it. Allah said, the word of Allah is in the highest place. Wouldn't you think that means that in Islamic discourse, the highest priority should go to the word of Allah? And the logical question then is, where is it in our discourse? Where is it? And I'm not here to complain. I'm here to say, if you don't see it there, you got to do something about this. I will leave you with one story. Quick one. I don't know how much time it is. Okay, I got time. One quick story. This was in New York. I studied a little bit of Arabic. I went through the entire Quran with the teacher over the month of Ramadan. Yeah, studied the entire Quran in Ramadan, just Ramadan. For the first time, beginning to end. And I was mad. How come the Muslims don't study the Quran? How come nobody's teaching this? How come nobody shares this? How come nobody talks about this? I was so, like an angry young man young blood, right? And I had a mentor, I won't name him because he'll get mad at me. He listens to me, like patiently listens to me. He was 8 years older than me. Listening, and then he grabs my arms. He goes, Nouman, when you can't find the man, you have to be the man. And he just lets me go. That's all he said. You know what we do, right? We're really good at what? Complaining. This isn't happening. The community's not doing this. This one's not doing that. Look at what these people are doing. Look at the leadership. Look at this. Look at that. Look at these. Why don't you scholars do this? Why don't you imams do this? Why don't you masjids do this? Why don't oh. Nobody's being the man. Guess what? I'm going to shake you up a little bit. Quran is not back. Quran is not the discourse because you and I didn't make it the discourse. So let's do it. Let's bring it center stage. Let's put it back in focus. Let's study the word of Allah. Let's contemplate the word of Allah. I'm going to spend, my intention, if Allah gives life, the next 15 years, my goal, inshallah, is to finish the study of the rest of the 50% of the Quran that I still haven't studied in depth. I've been studying the Quran now for 23 years. I think at least I need another 15 years to finish my first round of deep study. And whatever I do study, I record and I put up. I want you to become a part of Bayyinah TV because you guys are now considered, in my opinion, now that you've spent 30 hours doing this, you're Quran students. And unfortunately, you're my Quran students. So if you're my Quran students, I would like you to start studying the Quran with me too, not just Arabic. I need you to start studying the Quran. And that does not mean, by any means, that you must agree with what I share when I teach the Quran. But at least you have something. And as you grow, you will learn to disagree with me on one thing or two things or 20 things or 50 things. And that's completely okay. That is completely okay. I even disagree with myself with my past self. And I'll probably end up disagreeing with myself 5 years from now too. Because the Quran is a journey of being humbled constantly. It just is. I'd like you to be a part of that journey with me. And I'd like, as time goes by, you and the Quran have a more direct relationship. Did you feel some more connection to the Quran in these last 10 days? Did you feel that? Now imagine that 10 days turning into 100 days. Imagine that 10 days turning into 365 days. What happens a year from now if you can maintain a commitment? You don't need 3 hours a day anymore. You need 20 minutes a day. That's all you need. But you need to make a commitment. If we make a commitment about our physical health, about our career health, about our educational health, this is literally heart health. This is heart health. I need a direct, constant injection of divine speech, Allah's speech into my life daily, something. Build it. And if I've put my work in and built the library so you can start taking little by little by little. You don't need to consume all of it. You just need to have daily dosage. Do these 10 days and let me give you a plan on how to move forward. My du'as are absolutely with all of you. And I'm going to make sure my TAs are super responsive to your questions. Be pointed in your questions. Be serious about your education. I just want to be able to provide this. I didn't want to open up, actually I opened up a school, then I decided no, I don't want to be a school. I want to be able to feed schools around the world. I want to be able to create 100 teachers out of the people sitting here that are going to revolutionize schools everywhere, that are going to start teaching themselves, taking this in directions and places I couldn't take. That's far more valuable to me. The Prophet ﷺ invested in people, right? people. He passed on Quran. If I could just do a little bit of that with you, what you do with that will be a pleasant surprise for you and me. And I pray that Allah puts that in my scale and Allah puts that in your scale, and we get to meet people from 8 centuries ago whose work led to us today doing this work from 12 centuries ago, and we're all hanging out together because we were part of one giant commission program, right? We're just earning each other's commission. You know, وَاتَّبَعَتْهُمْ ذُرِّيَّتُهُمْ بِإِيمَانٍ أَلْحَقْنَا بِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ. Their offsprings followed them in faith, and we will reunite all of them together. SubhanAllah. So my du'as are absolutely with you. I pray that this is the generation that restores, makes a serious dent in restoring the ummah's connection to the Quran. And I pray that your journey through the Quran is systematic and thorough, and that you're able to be patient with yourself. Don't rush the process. Just be patient with yourself, and inshallah, you'll be amazed at the kind of progress you're going to make. I'm so very honored and grateful to Epic for allowing this program to happen here. Their support, the way they set up this stage, the way they set up this auditorium, the way they kicked out all the kids who can't play basketball for God knows how long, whose du'as are against us probably, inshallah not. You know, well, I'm grateful to those kids for sacrificing their time for us too. But they've been extremely, extremely supportive. And my hope is that in the near future, I'm able to even do other programs for you to build the Arabic in person also and to institutionalize. But the real success to me will be when what I have to teach is actually being taught by you guys better than I could teach it. And you're independent of somebody coming and teaching you. You understand? That's actually that would be a success. The success is not me coming back. The success is me becoming irrelevant. That would be ultimately successful. And that's my sincere prayer is, especially I see so many bright young boys and girls here that just from their questions and the way they're engaged and the way that they've been able to keep up with the material, they have a future. We got to give these kids a pathway. But your kids will not have a pathway if they don't see you take initiative first. You take initiative first and they will take that pathway. So I'm going to end with that, inshallah ta'ala. Thank you so much. And all of you that are watching online, again, the same invitation to all of you. Do sign up on Bayna TV. Do the 10 days of work, and I'm going to see your progress at the end of it. I'm going to actually check your scores at the end, and I'm going to email you my disappointment personally, inshallah. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I will be. Yeah, I know. I'm just messing with you. So, jazakumullahu khairan. Thank you so very much, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.